Alright, now the next thing that I want to show you, so far we've gotten this whole thing done for our function, but although we haven't even actually written the function yet, we got the activity to work that we're trying to get to work, which is to build a dynamic list of a scanned image directory so that you can go from a thumbnail to a larger picture dynamically. Okay, so the next step is going to be to build the function, but before we do that really quickly, I think it actually might be a little bit easier if we go ahead and add some JavaScript to this before we build the function. That way we know that we can add the JavaScript in later, or we can build the function around using the JavaScript as well. So there are lots of different kinds of jQuery, lightboxes, and things you can use. I went ahead and just found one that you could use. It's called Lightbox2, and it's at this address. It's LOKESHDHAKIAR.com, and then /project/lightbox2. Alright, so I'm just going to quickly walk through this. He gives you some examples. This is if you want just individual pictures, right? Doesn't have any navigation on the sides. But if you want like gallery sets, like this one for instance, where you can navigate to the next image, that's what we're going to choose, okay? So you would click on this download link, and it's going to download something that's zipped, which I've already done, and I'm going to show you how to implement it. And then he's got some instructions here as well. So let's look in my downloads folder, and you'll see that I had my Lightbox 2.6 zip, and then I unzipped it, and we've got Lightbox here. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up in my Finder window. And what you're going to see here is just an example of the exact same page that we were just looking at, but it's downloaded, okay? And it's got the resource files here as well. You could read this. I'm just going to tell you what you can use it to do, though. If you look inside each of these folders, you're going to see some resource files. You're going to need all the JS files and the CSS files you can use. And then for the image files, if you look here, these are actually files that he's using, you know, as his demonstration icons. So this we can actually get rid of, or we don't have to copy it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let's go to my htdocs, and I'm going to go to my dev folder, gallery function. We'll open that in the Finder. And so in my gallery function folder, okay, this is the root directory of my demonstration files. I'm going to take the CSS folder, I'm going to take the image folder, IMG folder, and I'm going to take the JS folder, and I'm going to copy those. Whoops, hold on just a second. My other window went away. I'm going to copy those into here, okay? I'm just going to close this now. Alright, so what I don't care to have anymore are his demonstration file folders. So I'm going to get demo page and move it to the trash because I don't need that. These buttons are like the X's and the side navigation arrows and so forth. Okay, and this is the loading GIF. Okay, so we're going to leave those there. And then now we have our necessary CSS and we have our necessary JavaScript files. And then now all we have to do is kind of like follow his instructions on the page. Okay, so first he tells you to go ahead and make a link to your JavaScript pages. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the script, and up in the head after my title I'm going to put my link to the JavaScript right there. Okay, next is he says go ahead and find your CSS link here and then copy it, and you're going to paste that also into the head. Okay, now what's important for me to tell you at this point is that if for any reason you changed around the directory paths for those folders, you need to make sure that the directory path is right, otherwise your JavaScript's not going to work. Your CSS isn't going to work. Okay, so make sure that the directory path from this page is correct to actually get to these pages. Okay, alright, so now we've got our link. Next thing he tells you to do is to actually activate these things, where it says if you have a group of related images, that's us, then what he's saying is that you need to add an attribute to each anchor link that's called data-lightbox, and then you're going to put in quotes for the value, you're going to put some name that they all share, like road trip, or in our case animals, or fruit, or something like that. So I'm going to copy this, and let's find where we would put that. It's going to be in the href, okay, is where it said. So this is our whole href beginning tag. Well, we can put it here at the end after we have where it says title, blah, 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 okay? And then I'm put a space, and I'm going to paste in, I didn't need that extra space, data lightbox equals, and then it says road trip. Well, I don't have anything called road trip. What I do have, if you look up here, though, is I have my animals, okay, grouping. So let's go here, and let's make something that's common, and we're just going to do a PHP thing. And we're going to go say echo, oops, not animals, images, okay? And let's save that, okay? And then let's go back to our page. I'm going to refresh it, okay? It doesn't look beautiful yet, but when I click on it, I get my lightbox effect, which is pretty nice. And it is, in fact, grouping them in a set, which is great. That's what we want. Now, one thing you want to notice here that's happening is on every single one of these, you'll notice down here where it's grabbing the title, it's going ahead and because we gave it a title, it's putting that here. Okay, well, we don't want to say open bunny in larger window anymore. That's not what we want to say. So let's go back and fix that. And let's just get rid of the open in larger window thing, okay? Let's just leave it at our PHP where it says title equals PHP echo alt, okay? Let's save that. Let's do a refresh. And now we're left with bunny, you know, chameleon, dog nose, and so forth, okay? All right, so that is a really simple way to add JavaScript. Now, let's look at how we can build this thing into a function. Okay, so first of all, to put this whole thing in a function, let's go up here and start it. Okay, first of all, we're going to just start in a really simple fashion. We're just going to declare a function, and we're going to call it gallery, like that. We have to open our curly brace, and then let's go down to the bottom where we end our echo UL, and we're going to end our curly brace. We're going to save it, and there's a couple things. One is that we just created a function with all of these instructions inside of it, but we're not calling the function yet. So whereas before we were just doing these things, well, now all we did was we created the function that will do these things whenever this function is called. So if I were to save this right now and hit refresh, there's nothing here because we haven't called the function, we've only declared the function. Now it's important to know that you can only declare a function one time, although you can use it, you can actually use the function or call the function more than once, but you can only declare it one time. Okay, so there are a couple other things. Well, first of all, let's go ahead and make sure that it's working. So down at the bottom of the page, just for the heck of it, let's go ahead and call the function. And say we're going to say gallery, like that. That's all you got to do to call a function. And this is the correct color coding when you're calling a function that's user defined. Save it, hit refresh, and there's our stuff again. Okay, now a couple of things about this is let's get rid of all this testing stuff. We said we were going to get rid of that. So here you can get rid of it, and then again right here, let's get rid of that. Let's save it, refresh. Okay, so at least now we've got rid of all those print R's. Everything is still working. Okay. Now the thing that we really want to do to make this a useful function is we want to make it so that this pathway is configurable. All right, it's really important. So the way that you do that is you create a parameter or an argument that someone's going to pass into it. All right, so let's say that we want to call this image folder. Okay, so we're going to create a variable called img folder. I'm using camel case. All right, and then what we have to do is we have to substitute that here. Okay, where it says animals, we want to actually call. Let's actually do this. Like img folder camel case, and I'm going to concatenate it so that we're still adding the / at the end. Okay, and so now what we're doing is when we call the function, we're going to have to give it a parameter so that we know what the gallery is that we're trying to access. So let's save that, and right now you're going to get an error. Okay, if I just hit refresh right now, I'm going to get an error because down here I've told it up at the top that I have to pass a parameter in, but here I've got no parameters inside of my parentheses. So if I hit refresh, you see it's saying that it's missing an argument. So what I need to do is I need to pass in a string, and I'm going to call it animals, because that's the name of my folder. I'm going to save it and refresh, and now I've got my stuff here. Now what's happening is that this parameter that I, the user, am designating as the value that's going to get passed into the function then becomes the value for this variable, and this variable gets passed in here. So essentially what's happening is that animals gets stated here, and then it gets passed in here. And the thing that's nice is that I could add any number of different galleries, including fruit or whatever. In fact, let's go down here and let's say gallery fruit now. Okay. Save that and let's refresh it. And then you see down here, now I've got my fruit gallery showing up, and everything's working just fine. It's working exactly as it's supposed to. And so now you can see how useful it is to actually configure this thing as a function. Okay. So there's one last little thing that I want to do, is down here where I say data lightbox and I call out images. What I actually want to do is I want to pass in the parameter that we created, which is the image folder parameter, and then that way there won't be a / at the end. Not that it matters that much, but so we're going to go ahead and save this, refresh it, make sure everything's okay. Everything is okay. Alright, so it's working. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is I want to take my function and I actually want to put it in a separate page. There's no reason that it should be in this single page, because the idea of create a function is that you can reuse it on multiple pages, multiple times, whatever, and it's just loaded into the memory. It's more efficient. So I'm going to cut this, alright, and just refactor a little bit, and tab that in, save this, and then I'm going to create a new page, new, PHP, create. I'm going to get rid of all this, and I'm just going to paste what's in my clipboard, and I know that I don't have PHP here yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and put my ending tag, and at the top I'm going to put my beginning tag. Okay, and I'm going to call this functions. I'm going to just paste this in so you don't have to watch me type. So I'm going to declare this as the functions page. I'm going to save it as a functions page, and I'm going to create a new folder here called includes, and we're going to save this as functions.php, and you could add other functions to that page if you want to include them. I'm going to save that, and then over in my index page I need to include it. I'll include that up here. And I can include that up here. It's not going to echo it because I actually have to call the function for it to work. So I'm going to save that, and we'll test it. And let's go ahead and hit refresh, and then you can see it still works. Everything on it is still working, so we're all good. Okay, and the beauty of this, what we've done here by putting this in the function file, is that now we can just put this include in any page in our website and call a gallery wherever we want to, as long as the supporting files are there. And what's nice is that somebody could upload files to these directories and just overwrite them or add or delete them, and it would automatically update the galleries without touching any kind of HTML, PHP, or backend to a CMS.